Okay, welcome, ladies who are viewing the recording. And just to, so you know, it's just a speaker view, so you don't need to worry. For the ladies here, welcome. This is our last and final night exploring these creational templates that we get to enjoy as women. I feel really excited about this evening, and oh, there's Heather. Let me let her in. Okay, and while we're waiting, I just will invite you ladies to drop in. Maybe take some deep breaths. Turn your camera off if you need to. Really drop into your heart. And for the new ladies here, we're going to be recovering some of the teachings from restoring ritual and the beautiful root of the rose training now. So just drop into your heart, into your body, feel yourself settle. And bring into your presence just all the ways that you live and breathe, and bring into your world and in your life and in your way of being the truth of love as something that we get to experience on this earth. And bring into your awareness all the ways that you live and breathe, and bring into reality the truth of creation. The fact that you get to create and be a creative, individual, unique, unreplicatable woman in this world. Just breathe that in. How beautiful it is to be able to create like that. And I invite you just to drop into your heart space and feel what's living there today. What's active at its surface and what's underneath of it. If it feels tender or warm and open. And see into your heart and just visualize with me for a moment roots going down from your heart all the way down into your centers of creation, your womb space. The place where as women we're connected to our potential to bring spirit into form. And see with me your heart as the soil of your being, the place where you get to receive from above the provision of God. You get to receive your positive thoughts. You get to receive from other people who love you and from life. And you get to turn it all into nutrients for your heart and for your love. And notice how what you receive into your heart sets the tone for how you feel, how you identify yourself, and how grounded or ungrounded you feel inside of love, how much connection to love you feel. So just see yourself inside of love. And underneath of your heart soil, I want you to visualize yourself as a seed full of all the essence of who you are, wrapped up with all the beauty and love you were ever created to express, with all your creational potential just bundled up inside of that seed that is you. And just see yourself planted underneath of that love, underneath of your heart, nurtured by your heart, poured in from above. And just take a note of how you feel when you really feel nestled inside of love, inside of your heart, those moments where you really feel love being poured into you, how you feel inside of that. Is it warm? Do you feel room to expand when you feel nestled inside of love? Take a moment and just imagine your heart opening deeper to love, soaking in all of the love in your life, letting it pour into your awareness, and just feeling how nutrient dense and yummy and subtle that love feels pouring inside of the you that you are, inside of love. And you might bring to your awareness someone that makes you feel love. And just imagine all the love that they give pouring inside of you. And let that love nourish you. And then visualize that love from the core of who you are, from the center of who you are, going deep, deep down into a space that's dark and kind of unknown, like the roots in the soil that are in the dark, deep down under. That space that we can't quite see. It's way deep down where the roots ground and plant. And just take a note of how those roots feel deep down in that creational center, in the energy of your womb space, that place of the unknown. And how it feels to be grounded inside of your heart and inside of that place of potential, of possibility of your womb. And just rest in this really beautiful awareness of this connection, of our creation centers connected to our heart. And feel all of that love from above warming that creational part of you, your womb space. And visualize those roots stabilizing you. Now notice how all of this rooting has happened underneath of the surface. And there's no blooming that's happened yet. So much has happened underneath of the surface of our heart that we're planted in, of our heart soil. And yet we feel stable and supported. We've created something underneath, below, that we can feel inside of us, a grounding in love and in our hearts. And now, just like a plant, you might imagine that down below in the depths of that soil, there's nutrients there for us too. and the places within our creation and within our life that are unknown to us or seem like mysteries, where slowly but surely there's information, there's little bits of knowingness that begin to travel back up into our awareness and move into the places where we get to witness ourselves inside of our identity centers. And so we can carry all this love, all these love nutrients from deep down below that creational center back into our heart. And as we feel that love in our heart from below, from the unknown, from our creational centers, we can notice that move and really enliven that space where we feel love to give back to the world. Once we've been poured into and we've planted our roots and we've soaked up all of the wisdom from the unknown channels and places in our life, then we can be finally ready to give back to the world in the form of our bloom. And this bloom gets to be our creation, our rose, our beauty that we get to share with the world and experience for ourselves. So I'll just invite y'all when you're ready to come back in whatever way that feels good for you. And there's no rush time here. Just breathe back into this moment. Okay, so today we are going to be weaving like this really beautiful tapestry, or maybe you can imagine it as like a mosaic of wisdom around our expression in the form of style, but not just style as something that maybe Vogue tells us, right? But like the energy behind our style and how we show up in the world and how we choose to emanate and touch all these different flavors of ourselves as feminine beings. We'll be bringing back into our space others here, and we'll be bringing back into this space all of the trainings that we've done over the past week of play and ritual, and bringing all these things together in the form of our style. Like, how can we incorporate play into our style? How can we incorporate symbolism and ritual and adorning ourselves with these sacred codes of our creation and really who we were created to be inside of something that we do every day? We get dressed every day. So, how can we make that something really magical? And so that's what we'll be exploring today. So, first, we really have to unravel some of the distortions around attraction, right? Because when we're exploring beauty and we're exploring style, we really have to move ourselves away from any sort of ideas that the way that we dress is for other people, at its core, that it's there to manipulate responses from people. And we know when we really drop into our energy when we're doing that, whether it's us being hijacked by this idea that we need to perform in a certain way in order to be right or good or to be safe, or because we're perceiving lack of love or lack of care from others or lack of safety. When we're in our mind's analysis of what's happening and we're not really rooted in love, we know that that feels really bad, really disjointed and misaligned sitting inside of our system because it's such a dishonoring of our unique and honest inner truth of who we are. And so we feel as though in those moments that we're masking ourselves and we don't get to experience the bliss of attracting aligned opportunities and people to us because the people who are attracted to us in those moments are resonating with a false version and picture of us, right? So it feels not only like we're hiding ourselves, but we are reaffirming in those moments our not enoughness because we're not sharing the truth of who we are. So we're not really leaning into those vulnerable moments where we get to allow people to choose and be awake to what they are inspired and attracted towards naturally. And those people that are attracted to us naturally, when we're in our essence, when we're in the truth of our being, when we're rooted in love, those are the truly aligned people, that natural attraction to our natural emanation. So, this being said, sharing our radiant and true and cultivated, yes, because we get to cultivate our expression of ourselves rooted in love for ourselves automatically is magnetic, though. You know, when we're not quite sharing ourselves in a way that is honest, it shows up energetically within the system of others, or maybe even in the subconscious of others, as you're trying to like pull the wool over their eyes. It's something about it is just not quite aligned, not quite right. And even if they don't see it, it's how you feel. You feel like you're lying to people. And so restoring beauty to women, being draped in devotion, right, is allowing ourselves to be that living emanation of love for ourselves and for others, to attract truly potent, beautiful people, opportunities, experiences that give life. Because you can only generate life where there's honest love there, right? Life giving connection, life giving devotion, care, connections with people. And there's this like funny idea that some women are just lucky, right? That they just attract certain opportunities to them, that men are just nicer to some women, or, you know, all of these distortions around attraction. But the reality is that a lot of times, what we're really experiencing is a frustration with the fact that our strategy, the way that we're displaying ourselves as a strategy for attention or care or being cherished isn't working, because when you are naturally sharing the truth of who you are and you're allowing yourself to really truly be seen without hiding yourself at all, you are naturally attractive, you're naturally inviting of attention in a way that isn't like gimme, gimme, or grabbing or manipulative. It just is, because there's no blockages there where you're hiding yourself anymore. And that is where your brilliance really is shown and really is seen. And so when we really untangle guilt and shame from our emanation, we get to allow ourselves to touch the pulse of life more readily and acquaint ourselves with this like endless fractal of possibility available to us inside of our creation centers. We talked about the code of the ovum last night and how, as women, we're born with all the creative possibility that we'll ever have the moment that we are born. So we have all these different millions of possibilities of expression available to us. And if we're looking at our bodies as a map, like as a way to understand our energetic makeup, this is true too. Women are full of variance and possibility of expression. We don't really follow any one unique expression from when we're born to when we die. We experience ourselves as many women throughout the course of our lives, as many iterations of beauty and textures and tones and just really delicious flavors that when we're tapped into love, we get to explore, right? Just as a way of experiencing ourselves. And so sharing this beauty gets to motivate and inspire people to be magnetized to you without trying to manipulate any sort of response. And it's just kind of funny because our society really glorifies struggle and really glorifies this idea or tries to make true this idea that it has to be difficult, right, to attract opportunities, or you need to get out and hustle and do this really hard networking and like cold calling of people in order to generate success. But part of what this magnetism opens up and this allowing yourself to be seen opens up, right, is this ability to put aside that old programming of that you have to work hard to attract things to you. Because when you're just existing and sitting in the truth of who you are and you're attracting people to you based on that very pure, very clean expression of your energy, it's effortless, right? And it feels good and it emanates this tone of love because you're rooted in love. Your expression and your creation is rooted in love. And so what comes out of that is people recognizing, oh my goodness, this woman really loves herself. She's really into all her ways of expressing herself, ways of enjoying herself, ways of enjoying her womanhood. And whether or not I like it or not, there's something curious about it. There's something I enjoy, or I'm even entertained by, maybe. I feel inspired by. And so that gets to be our devotion. So outside of the heady analysis of is how I'm being or is how I'm showing up good? Is it bad? Is it shameful? Should I feel bad? Should I feel like I'm doing something wrong? Like I'm attracting too much tension? Like I'm being too much? Like I'm too dressed up? Like I'm too dressed down? Right? We get to offer people this opportunity where they get to witness themselves in their witnessing of us because of how clean and loving our emanation is. We've chosen in those moments just to like honor what feels exciting for us in the moment. Honor in that moment what feels playful for us. What colors, and fabrics, and symbolism, and all these things we want to weave into our expressive identity of what's moving through us. And when we're talking about the root of the rose, right? We're rooted, we are planted inside of this like feel this garden soil that's so deep of just love and When we tap into our womb space, and we talked about how God decides what comes through our womb. And of course, we're talking physically here, but also energetically, as the womb as a creational center. When we take what we love and we put it into that unknown space, and we just allow it to be what it is and come forth into the world, we're sourcing our nutrients from God, from the unknown, from those creational centers that just are a part of who we are. The bloom that comes forth into the world is so pure and so beautiful. And it doesn't need to do anything to attract attention, right? When you're walking in a park or outside and you see a beautiful flower, it didn't say, hello, look at me. It's just being what it is, sourcing its nutrients from below, from its root system, being poured into, allowing itself to bloom when it's supposed to, however it comes up. And that gets to be such a beautiful like remembrance of how we get to orient ourselves towards beauty, right? And so, when we're talking about attracting attention or attracting uh, opportunities or gifts, even from just existing in this space of love, in this really heavy tone of like, oh my God, that's a woman that loves herself. We often wonder, like, why? Why is it that I'm just getting all these things? Or why is it that people are just being nice to me? But the problem with that is that we often distort or confuse provision with something that's only material, right? We think we need to be building something, doing something, making something in order for us to be making a really big impact or stirring inside of people. So the impact on the world that utility brings is not at all the same as the impact and the stirring that is created within people when we're moving them emotionally, when we're creating this experience for them of arousal, really. And not a sexual arousal, but just like this spark of life where they're recognizing you connected to your life source, to your heart, to your love, to your joy. When you're alive, you're not stagnant, you're moving, you're allowing yourself to witness all these different flavors of yourself. It's a very noticeable energy at a subtle level, and it provides something for people. And so this is how the feminine provides in the immaterial realm. So we may not be building something, right? Or doing anything, but in our beingness, we stir within the system of others inspiration, excitement, a remembrance of life itself as worthy of experiencing without doing anything. And so the codes of beauty are felt for years and generations. We think of like the Mona Lisa, right? It is a painting that was made, and it has existed within the minds and hearts of everyone for generations, for years. It will go on to do that forever. When we think of you know, even the feeling that we get at the thought of thinking about something beautiful or artwork or music, it sits in us in a way that is so deeply embedded inside of even our somatic experience as human beings. Our resonance with beauty is encoded in the literal makeup of who we are, the hormones that it generates, the way that it shapes and changes our brain, our relationship to the world around us forever when we encounter something truly moving,
and beautiful, our entire orientation towards life itself changes. So, where the material world, right, offers us something of utility, it has a finite nature. The buildings will fall, things that we do and make will all go away. But like that emanative, beautiful stirring inside of people is absolutely a provision and absolutely something that you should not feel any sort of weird feeling about generating in others and allowing them to give back to you what you've poured into yourself. You are like blooming out into the world, and of course they're going to nurture that. They're going to want to pour into you so that you can continue blooming. You're providing them with inspirational force. There's this beautiful Chinese proverb that says, if you have two pennies, with one buy a loaf of bread and with the other buy a flower, because one will keep you alive and one will give you a reason to keep living. Right. So it's this really beautiful thing. And beauty is often seen as like opulence, of like, you know, it's a luxury, it's something that we don't really need. But opulence gives people this opportunity to plug into luxury for a moment, this feeling of abundance for a moment, an abundance of time. When we spend time like getting ourselves ready and having all these beautiful details and, looking at all the little tweaks and things and how we're doing our makeup and our earrings and our hair, it gives people a moment to slow down, right? And examine all the details and really take it all in. And they're like, oh, look at those earrings and that lipstick. And there's all these little frills and details and things to meditate upon. And it slows us down. So I see opulence as a deeply spiritual, and that you offer people in this rushed age where we're always rushing to the next thing, moving to the next thing, an opportunity to slow down and bask in something that inspires and moves them. What a gift that is. And what a gift it is. Yes. That is so beautiful. Like, so beautiful, Heather. And so, our attention to detail really not only gives us an experience of all that's possible, it gives us an experience to slow down, but it keeps our energy open to trying new things. Because when we're paying attention to detail, it gives us the space to take all these different little nuances into our awareness, and very subtly kind of say like, oh, that is very beautiful, or that is really cool. How can I incorporate that into my way of being? How can I incorporate that into my emanation, into how I get to play, into how I get to show up and slow down and be more attentive into the day to day mundane things in my life? So I encourage you with this in a sort of embodiment practice to tap into these codes of play, these codes of opulence, and to start paying attention to the details in your life and what stirs something in you. Whether it's a song that you're listening to, right? And you're like, oh, I really love the violin in the back of that song. Just closing your eyes for a moment and really meditating on all the different layers of the song or the music, something that maybe you've listened to 100 times. Or, even art, that you really enjoy, or you might have a beautiful throw that you have in your home with like beading or some sort of embroidery, and just take a moment to look at it, to really enjoy and meditate upon the details. There's like flowers in this robe that I love, and just allow yourself, your heart, to like open up to how it feels to meditate on beauty. And it will give you some really beautiful insights into what beauty truly provides. And so we can really remove ourselves from all of these false ideas that beauty is frivolous. We can start to, like we talked about in restoring ritual, bring the spiritual into form through allowing ourselves in our heart and body to experience how it feels to experience beauty. Because as women, I think we all know, like, oh yeah, beauty is important to me. Like, it makes me feel good to get dressed up and all of these things. But when we really notice ourselves and notice beauty around us, then we can really have a true, honest awareness at a sensory level that's embodied and is not in the head, but is something we know inside of our heart, body, creational space, everything, how important it is for our our life experience. So, we know that beauty can be used to make ourselves feel better. But how can beauty literally be a way that we can heal ourselves? That sounds like kind of interesting, right? We know about affirmations. Like, I think I love affirmations. I think they're beautiful, especially physical affirmations, which is something I explore in sensual emotional intelligence, of like bringing the spiritual into form through rituals and little things that we do to conjure the emotions, the beliefs about ourselves that we want to have. If we want to feel peaceful, then it might require that we create spaces every day or every few moments or so just to allow ourselves to be at peace. So we're feeling it in our bodies. We're feeling what it feels like to be at peace instead of just telling ourselves, I am at peace, I'm at peace, I'm at peace, which is a very head level thing. But with our clothing, when we're incorporating ritual into our clothing, right? We get to sort of weave these threads of energy of our intentions into our garments of expression. And then we see this sort of dance unfold, revealing all these like sacred remembrances of spiritual truths that we know at a head level inside of our day-to-day tasks of getting dressed. So, like, what does this look like? Like, I'm speaking, you know, what does this really look like? This looks like I have a scarf, and today this blue scarf is going to be a physical symbol of my desire or my intention to be like water, to flow. Or tomorrow, that same scarf, right, could be a way of feeling enveloped in love. And you get to play with symbols. You get to play with symbolism. Maybe today this robe is me draping myself in love. And maybe tomorrow it's me clothing myself in romance. Pearls are like some of my favorite spiritual tools. I mean, they're also beautiful, but just really meditating on the luminance of pearls or like how they're created. Maybe one day a strand of pearls gets to be me draping myself in all of the unique, different permutations of how we get to express ourselves. Each of these pearls is totally different, right? And then maybe one day I get to put this on as a reminder that everything gets to turn into something beautiful. Pearls are created through like irritation, right? And so this gets to be a remembrance that I'm adorning myself with. I'm cloaking myself in this remembrance. And then I get to carry those codes, right? That intention out into the world as a devotion. So we get to encode our day to day lives with meaning in this way. And we get dressed every day. So, like, it can be something as simple as like this lipstick. Today, as I put my lipstick on, I am speaking words of wisdom. I am speaking the truth of God's love. Or when you're putting on your blush, I am allowing my smile to be seen with courage, you know, anything. And it gets to be this really fluid experience of allowing ourselves to be clothed in intention and really dropping that into our subconscious and allowing ourselves to day recode our way of being in the world. And those are the kinds of things, those practices that really heal us. Because, I mean, I don't want to go into the scientific side of this, but having a sensory experience is something that when your body and your brain are both being activated, you're attentive at a different level, at a deeper level than you are when you're just talking at yourself. Of like, it's safe to be loving, or, I want to be a woman that embodies wisdom or speaks wisdom. When you're bringing some sort of sensory awareness to that affirmation, and you might even like really tap into how that lipstick feels as it's like moving across your lips, and you're taking note of all these sensations, you're really rooting that affirmation in your body. So you're healing and encoding your system. It could even be, with fragrance, which is not something like we think of with like style a lot of times. But if you ask me, I think fragrance is very stylistic and says a lot about a woman. You might be spraying onto you like a fragrance that smells warm and smoky. I embody warmth. I'm allowed to warm and like feel warmth within myself and feel warmth with others, or like a scented lotion. I'm rubbing in comfort. I'm rubbing in wellness, soothing, devotion to myself, health, wellness, and just blessing your body in that way. Like, I love the idea of having like one or two fragrances that just symbolize certain things that you want to bring into your life. So every time that you use them, you're like rubbing that intention inside of you. You're smelling it, it's all over you. You're having this beautiful sensory experience with it. So it sounds like, we're talking about healing and we're talking about ritual, but this gets to be playful. And we get to decide every day, like, what we want different things in our lives to mean and be, and how that gets to show up in how we clothe ourselves and how we are adorning ourselves and how we're making our presence known and available not only to ourselves but to others. So, as we're kind of delving into this sacred art of play, we're noticing how it really transcends any sort of mere amusement, like, anything kind of silly. And it really serves as a gateway to rediscovering our creativity in a whole different way. like if your understanding of creativity right now is doing crafts, this is like a whole new portal of awareness and opportunity for you to experience all the different facets of your being. And kind of the image that came to me is like a diamond, like really sharpen your brilliance so you're really shining. And so, uh, one of my favorite things is exploring fantasy. Like, if we're talking about play, right? You know, when I was little, I loved to put on costumes and pretend that I was like someone else, or like come up, like Heather, you talked about how you came up with characters. And so, I invite you to be really like attentive when you're watching TV shows, when you're looking at celebrities, when you're reading books. Who are the characters that you're attracted to, that you find intriguing? And how can you like start to encode sort parts of their expression into yours? And just like see how it feels when you try it on, and see what it tells you about yourself based on how you feel when you do that. I really know now that a key to understanding yourself is knowing that what you are attracted to tells you a lot about who you are. So if we learn to integrate those areas that we are attracted to, those things that we're attracted to in ways that are playful and fun. And we get to explore kind of the realm of fantasy, right, with ourselves of like, what if I dressed like what I imagine a flower would dress like in the world? I really love flowers. Or what if I dress like in a way that I imagine oh, I don't know, some god or goddess. Like, oh, excuse me. There's my I got interrupted for a moment. But what if you explored all of these things that you're attracted to in ways that you could really pull into your life and just see like what can I find out about myself inside of playing with these kind of fantasy stories that I come up with my mind about. I have this like book called The Soul of Sex, and it's by Thomas More, and it explores a lot of the myths throughout history and in ancient history. And even the stories in there, like how would I dress if I was Aphrodite? You know, I feel really attracted to her. How would I dress? And then how does that change how I experience myself? Or what does that bring up for me? I'm attracted to that for some reason. Maybe I have some blockages around expressing myself as love. Maybe that's something that I really want to lean into a little bit more. And that feels good. And that's something that I want to explore. So we get to be really creative with this. If there's a certain character on TV that you really love the style of, or the, you know, embodiment or emanation of, you can maybe try on what it might feel like to dress like her or be like her and see what comes up for you around that. Do I like this? Does this feel mysterious? Does this feel fun? Do I feel vulnerable inside of this? Do I feel playful? You know, what aspects of her identity as I'm putting her on can I incorporate into my mosaic that I'm creating of who I see myself to be? Because really, when we're learning to understand ourselves, it really is a mosaic of all of our experiences. But we only get to integrate that which we choose to experience, that we choose to bring our attention and our awareness to. So, this gets to be a whole nother area where we get to explore play. Another area that I find fun to play with is the feminine archetypes. So you have like the mother, You have the maiden, the uninitiated woman. She doesn't have any kids. She's a little naive, you know? She's just all light and love. Or, the mother that's more nurturing, or maybe conservative. However, the mother shows up for you, the lover, the seductress, the queen, who's very, you know, instilled with this groundedness and regality, or the sage, the mystic, you know. How can you maybe take inventory in your journal or just mentally how all these different archetypes show up for you? When I think of the mother, what comes up to me? What images come up to me? How can I incorporate those elements into my life so I can really get a intimate understanding of how I really feel about those things? How can I explore my maiden? Maybe that looks like going back to a version of you that was pre-children or was, just frolicking through the world essentially without a care in the world. Like for me, I mean, to be honest with you, I love the maiden. I love how free she is, how just fun and playful she is, and incorporating those aspects into my life in ways that allow me to reacquaint myself with that energy. And I think a lot of times because of the way that people typically or women typically move through different stages of their life, they think that they can only access one expression of themselves at a time. So they get trapped in the mother, or they get trapped in the maiden, or they feel like, how am I the lover and also the mother? How am I the seductress and also the mother? And feeling into these archetypes and really writing out, what does this woman look like to me? You know, and then giving yourself these experiences to try that on in terms of clothing. Okay, if I was embodying the seductress, what would that look like? The lover, what would that look like? The queen, what does that look like? How does that change how I feel about myself inside of how I'm currently showing up in the world? How can I add that to my mosaic? And it just becomes like slightly less pixelated every time that you do it. Your understanding of yourself, it becomes a little bit less grainy. It's like more refined. So when you see a woman with a really strong and clear expression of her style, what's happened there, she's integrated a lot of pictures and it's just become this really cohesive, clear image. It's very refined. There's so many little details that come together that create this like one single color. Like this is her. So we're not just like, I am the mother here and I am the lover there, which is like two chunks of person or beingness. It's like bringing in, I really like this character and I'm attracted to this kind of flower and I'm attracted to this story, this woman in this story. And I love like the smoothness of a violin. Like, how could I embody that in my clothing and in my emanation? I really love, I really love like smoothness. And one way that that's become really deeply embedded into like my expression is this sort of very fluid movement that I have, especially when I'm like teaching, because it calms me and it's soothing and it's like when you feel something soft, right? It's like luxurious and slow, and you want to slow down and really feel it, right? And so I'm like, if I want to be someone who people want to slow down and listen to, right? If I want to not feel rushed inside of myself, if I want to experience my voice even as soft, as something that feels good coming out of me. You know, when you're yelling or when you're like barking at someone, it actually hurts. And so I found that embodying this like silkiness, it feels good to me. It feels good to embody that. It feels good to try that on. And so my experience of that softness gets to be integrated within my expression. You see. So I'm curious, and I know Taylor's off, but how I want to invite you into sharing maybe how does your inner lover, your inner mother, your inner maiden, queen, what does she look like? What does she look like? And no pressure to share, but it's like something to really think about. So, a problem that comes up with this is that it feels really vulnerable to embody these things, especially in front of other people. Like, when I'm thinking about like when it's funny when I was younger, it was something that was very easy to me because I don't know, I wasn't as conscious of I guess what we talked about, like what I should or shouldn't be doing. Um, but we have to understand that when we are exploring all these different permutations or expressions of life, really, we are looking like life to people. And life is something that people want to merge with. Like they want to be a part of that. I think the thing that I most struggled with when I was exploring beauty was this fear that people were going to be looking at me and lusting after me or like seeing me only for my beauty, right? And when we are attracted to someone or we are attracting someone or someone is attracted to us, what often ends up happening is we will kind of be noticing this attraction in other people and it triggers us, or we notice our attraction towards another person and it triggers us, or attraction towards a thing, even like a character, or that woman is really beautiful, not of course in not a sexual way, but just in a like, am I allowed to show up like that in the world? Like she's really beautiful, but like, am I allowed to do that? you know and it kind of triggers us a little bit. But what we're doing is we're stirring and cultivating this erotic, this eros, this life. And that's what the erotic really means. It's so like pressed into this idea of sex, right? But really, what people are seeing and experiencing is there's a life there. That is someone who is alive, like they're letting themselves be seen. When you are being seen like that, when you decide to show up in your vulnerability, in the softness of that vulnerability, but also the edginess of allowing yourself to be seen, you look so alive to people. And so when we re recalibrate our understanding of attraction, what we find underneath of that is that people have a very pure desire to be a part of a life. And that's all it is. But what happens is that because we get scared, we get guarded, we don't trust, we say we don't trust them, but really we don't trust ourselves to screen people for their ability to hold us with care. So we'll shut our beauty down. We're like, the beauty show is over. I'm scared, right? And I by no means think that you should subject yourself to people who you obviously feel discomfort around. but shutting that beauty down, shutting your activated expression down because you feel unsafe is something to investigate. Because oftentimes it's our projection of our lack of trust within ourselves that we then project onto others. So going back to the code of the ovum, something that so many people do not know is that the egg actually chooses the sperm. So the egg opens itself up to being pursued, right? Even if you're not active sexually, when you're ovulating, that egg is sitting inside of you, it's sending out a pheromone, tone out into the world that says, hello, I'm available. And if you do, lie down and have this experience, those sperm go up inside of you. But at the end of the day, it's not the sperm that finds the egg, it's the egg that actually chooses which sperm permeates its membrane. So people being attracted to you means that they see life in you. And we are actually responsible then for who we allow inside of our field and how quickly we do that. So oftentimes we feel this rush, I know, like, for a lot of women who are single, there's this idea that, like, you're either attractive and pursued and in danger, or you are not attractive at all and nobody's pursuing you. So, like, what's the middle ground there? You need to, as a keeper of beauty, call people to slow down. And in your, like, expression of beauty, as a keeper of life, right? As the keeper of your womb, as the keeper of your heart, you get to be the person who says, like, how quickly this person gets access to certain parts of me. So you being beautiful, you showing up as radiant has nothing to do with what other people are allowed to do in terms of their accessing of you. So when we allow people to be naturally lured in by us without giving too much away too soon, we're actually gifting them with the opportunity to get to know us. And so, yes, like, attraction is really powerful, especially for men, right? We know this. But when we're slowing down and we're just, like, giving off just a little bit at a time, obviously for our benefit, but also for theirs, we're giving them an opportunity to get to know us. And even with women, or, with people in general, there's this really interesting way of being in which really even good people can often show up as predators in a way that they don't even know that they're being. Like, good people will be like, oh my gosh, there's this really amazing thing, I want to be a part of it, and that kind of, like, takes over them. And if you don't slow them down, even though they're a really good person, if you're just kind of laying yourself out there, like, I think of the sexual revolution movement, and I think how many beautiful women are getting in the way of men or even people really getting to know them because they're hijacking really good people with that arousal instinct that triggers that predatory, I want to have. It's like when you have a lot of money or something, or you have a lot of resources, it's your job to safeguard that. It's your job to be evaluative of who can be a safe keeper of that. And in the process, you get to vet, you get to be attentive of everything that's coming towards you. So the egg chooses. You still get to be pursued, you still get to be radiant, you still get to be beautiful, but you get to pause and assess and, like, scan. And that is your like that is your power, and not in a way that's like has anything to do with being over anyone, but that is your strength as a woman. And restoring the lost codes of beauty is actually first coming back into a remembrance about before we can even ascend into that place of strength, right? Of awareness of our full potential as women. We have to first descend and be aware of what our first true submission is. And our first submission, our first layer of descent is to our bodies. So unless and until you are awake to the truth of your biology as a chooser, as a receiver, as someone that holds the key to your realm, you can't awaken the fullness of your erotic brilliance, of your life codes, of your beauty, because you're scared. And so a woman or a girl, girls are often told, especially now, that they're powerful, you are capable, you can do anything. And none of it will replace the brilliance of awakening to the truth of your erotic potential, your life keeping potential. The fact that you're designed to both hold and be a keeper of life, like an example of what it means to be alive, an attractor of life giving opportunities. You know, when you are really aware of who's coming into your field, you're able to have a different level of discernment about who you partner with, and those partnerships give life to. So that is actually your highest potential. We're told all these things as women about, you know, all these falsities about having to be strong in the same way that men are, having to be powerful in the same way that men are. But our true potential is in holding ourselves responsible as the keepers of life. And so in this way, our sexual maturity, that is our awakening to our realization of responsibility as keepers of life, is our maturity. When you first get your period, that is an appointment that you cannot miss, right? You cannot refuse that appointment. It is an immediate awakening. I am a woman. I am a keeper of life. And from the moment that you're born, you know, you're born with all of this potential, but in that moment, there's like this gravity to it. And it's like, oh, like I could have a baby? Oh my gosh. And so when we think of our styles, then we have to redefine all of our definitions of what's safe. We have to redefine all of our definitions of what keeps us okay inside of that awareness that we get to decide. And remember that that is our thing to be responsible for. But what I think is really beautiful is thinking about how as women we're born with like all the eggs we'll ever have. Like when you're born, you already have millions and millions of eggs. And even by the time that you are starting to ovulate or have a period, there's already like a lot of loss of those eggs. They die off. There's a process that actually happens called apoptosis, where your eggs actually basically commit suicide. And by the time that you are finally at a age where you can give birth, you have significantly less eggs than you started with. And so this might look kind of wasteful, like what's the point? But it really clues us into the feminine as a abundant source of potential but not all of that potential materializes. So when we're thinking about style, we might try on a lot of things. We might try on a lot of different expressions of ourselves. And some of them don't feel right, and some of them we don't like, and some of them we do. But like, it looks very wasteful to people sometimes when we're like, I think I want to try this hair color. I think I want to try this kind of dress. I think I want to do this. And it seems we can it's really easy to get tricked into thinking that it's silly, but it's a way for us to understand ourselves better. And the more we understand ourselves, the more we can really understand who we need to be in partnership with, who, whether that's a man or a woman or a friend or a business partner or whatever, we're able to understand who is a right match to us by refining our understanding of ourselves. So this opulence, this abundance that is very native to our bodies clues us in to how we can relate to our style in a very rightful way that is very biologically feminine. And in speaking about our biology and the way we're designed as women, a lot of times we feel like we need to rush. You know, our society really pushes us to, like, inside of that distortion that men and women are the same, to perform at the same speed as men, and to like be pushing uh this idea that we should be quicker in how we produce something. But our cultivation of beauty is an ongoing, very slow, like I said, granular process of refinement. And it looks slow, but it's perfect in that way of just allowing us to very gracefully move around different, nooks and crannies of possibility and decide where we want to settle. And so grace is really something that can be restored to women as a way to understand at an embodied level slowness as a gift to both yourself and to others. Because, like I said, it's like that movement, that softness, that way of even speaking when you just want to allow yourself to take your time. It feels good to you and it feels good to others. What we currently understand about grace is that it's like about being ladylike or about other people. And I don't necessarily think that those things are bad. Those are definitely fun textures and expressions to explore. Like, I love classic beauty and all of the elegance. I think it's really fun. But grace is about slowing yourself down and tapping into abundance. The fact that you don't need to be rushing, that you have time, that you will be taken care of without rushing to the next thing or feeling like you need to be arrived at a certain point in your understanding or awareness of yourself. Giving yourself time to just try things on, to see how it feels, to embody different flavors, to move your body in a way that feels good to you. And as a result, like I said before, you're giving people this opportunity to plug into the luxuriousness of an abundance of time that we don't need to rush. There's no like time at which we need to arrive at a certain point. I'm allowed to pause, breathe, and just be an example to others about the fact that they get to do that too. And so grace gets to be this very devotional act of love, of rooting in love for yourself. And what just came to me was like rooting also into the unknown of like what's happening inside of those spaces where we're silent or where we're not like rushing. 'Cause sometimes we think, oh, it's an awkward pause or we're taking too long or what are they thinking? But just trusting in those moments of stillness that you're taken care of, that it's okay for you to be poured into first and nourishing yourself with those moments of stillness. And that your true emanation, based on what you really truly need in those moments, will attract people to you who honor that in you, right? I don't want to be connected to anyone that requires me to rush. I can't create life in partnership with someone like that. So it's our job then to show up with the vulnerability and to face that sword, right? That edginess of being seen in that way, of being graceful. I think we experience women who we would describe as graceful as like really relaxed women, but we forget that relaxation is very much so a choice, especially in this day and age where everyone wants you to move faster. So, embodying a second option for people and giving yourself the experience of witnessing life work out for you when you slow down. Because we think that, like, oh my gosh, life is going to fall apart if I don't get this, that, and the third done right this second. But will it really? And do I really know that if I haven't given myself an opportunity to just chill the fuck out? Is the world really going to fall apart if I go take a nap right now because my body really needs it? No. So, I have some embodiments for you as we close, some just exercises that you can integrate into your life around this. One that I love that I discovered as I was like playing with Tai Chi. Like, the very slow movement is listening to a song that I love. I might also note that I discovered this inside of Tai Chi because I tried it on. And I discovered that it's not something that I personally love, but that I've integrated into my life in ways that please me. Right? So I listen to a song that I love, and I just give myself time to like listen to all the details and textures of the song, all the different layers, the instrumentation, the vocals, and I try to pick out all of the different layers that I can possibly find and just soak in all the detail of it and appreciate the detail for what it brings to the entire composition and just meditate on the beauty of it. And then I might invite my body, if it feels good, to like move in a way that I feel like translates the music into movement, if that makes sense. Like interpretive dance almost, but not really giving it any meaning, just moving in a way that feels good for my body. Just giving myself time to really feel the way that the music is moving up and down. I like to do this with slow songs, but it's also fun to do with like more like songs that have more energy to them and just continue to be in that, like giving yourself time to really feel the music, feel your body, feel all the subtleties of like how your back feels when it's moving, how your joints feel as they like circulate, or you know how your skin feels, the fabric on your skin. And it becomes this like moving meditation of just meditating on the beauty of the song that you really love. And again, you get to feel in your body like how beauty feels circulating through you, how it feels to slow down, tapping into those codes of grace, that frequency of grace, if it so pleases you. Another really beautiful embodiment is to just journal or take note of different things that you're attracted to throughout the day, whether it's like an interesting nose that you saw, you know, or a piece of artwork, or a color that you really enjoyed, or a book cover. Just start to notice things that you love. Notice stylistic choices that you love. I love people watching, and I just sometimes look curiously at, like, oh, that's interesting, like that pairing of those shoes with those pants, or that scarf, or that woman's hairstyling choice, and just take note of things that you feel life inside of, you know, and begin training yourself to feel life inside of things and notice what it provides for you inside of your heart, and how you can see that into your identity. And as we, practiced and really fell into how it feels to root that inside of the unknown, you might not know how that experience of beauty might be brought forth or what it might inspire you to do, but just leave it there and let it just gestate inside of you. And in its right season, if it's meant to, it will bloom. And lastly, and I think I'll email these out because um, it might be good to just have the journaling prompts here of just taking note of what your current ideas of beauty are, how those can evolve now, how much of that has been informed by what you should or shouldn't do, that hijacking that happens in the mental realm, or analysis of what beauty or style is, which we know that when we feel beauty, it's a feeling, it's not an analysis. So, untangling that distortion, exploring where your ideas of style might still be tangled up in that kind of guilt, shame, this is what I can do, this is what I'm not allowed to do kind of thing. And where you can root your awareness of style even more into your creational center. So, like I said, like taking in beauty, really meditating on it, and making a conscious decision just to root that in your womb space and say to yourself, if this is meant to be brought forth in the world through my expression, I trust that it will be brought to my awareness into a place of inspiration to me at the right time. Yeah. You might go into your closet and just look to see and take a note of how many clothes you feel inspired by, how many clothes you like wearing, and some clothes that you feel like might be more of an expression of that guilt, shame, hijacking. And you don't have to do anything, just take a note of it and allow yourself to see that in the unknown, and let yourself move throughout the world with grace and slowness. And at the right time, when you feel inspired to, you might find something that you want to integrate into your life and play with and try on. And it gets to be that simple, and it gets to be that easy. So, this was the beginnings of Draped in Devotion. And I will say for ladies who are receiving this recording, that Draped in Devotion will be available as a one on one. And if you are curious about that, you are welcome to receive information from me regarding that. I feel like this is, like I said, just such a beautiful reawakening of something that we really know about beauty, about what it's meant to be, what it can be as a creational force for good in our lives. And it's totally transformed my life and my relationship to play and joy and fantasy and my refined understanding of who I am as a woman and as a creator. And so I pray that this blessed you and felt nourishing and pricked your awareness of ways that you can move into uh, more beauty into your life.
I I just love this whole series, Leah. It was wonderful, and I feel like the last 3 years I've really explored this area of my life, and I changed salons where I work and really can lean into that expression
Mm-hmm.
of who I want to be, and it's had an impact. I just work with two other ladies, and my boss is she's wonderful. She's great. She's an older stylist, but very masculine, uh,
Mm-hmm.
very much not into herself, like loves to take care of other people, but I've noticed a change in her just with her just with her expressing herself more because she sees me doing it. And sometimes
Yeah.
she still wrestles with it. And like even this jacket, I was like, I'm gonna get this jacket. And she's like, oh my gosh, that jacket is so expensive. Are you gonna wear that to work? And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna do like color services. I'll take it off if I'm doing like, some lightener or bleach. But I'm like, I'm gonna wear it when I'm cutting hair or teaching. She's like, oh my gosh. And then I came to work with it on Saturday. I had a lot of haircuts, and she was like, you're wearing the jacket. I really like this jacket. But it's just funny to see her expression because when I first started working with her, like she was very like sweatshirt, jeans
Mm.
type lady. Uh, my son just woke up. But it's, yeah, just playing with beauty and getting to, I don't think sometimes I realize how much it affects other people, and I inspire
Right.
other people and clients in my chair just by being that and recognizing it when I'm out with other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my goodness, the thought I was having like escaped me. But I was just saying to myself that like I so that you have played with that. And it's so interesting that you can see it in people. Like it's something so subtle, but you know it when you see it. I mean, it's just so inspiring to see people, to see women in particular, because, like I said, we're the keepers of life. We inspire people to move towards us and lean in, and we're very invitational creatures by nature. And it is such a force for good, especially when that beauty is coupled with an inner beauty and inner rootedness and love. You get to be this like shining beacon of like ethereal, otherworldly love that people don't get to touch that often anymore because of the frequencies and the codes that are running in our society right now about how women have to be, how quickly we have to move, how much beauty we're allowed to embody safely. So when you're like kind and alive and tapped into love and grace, and you give yourself permission to be responsible, yes, but also to just explore and play. If I have the resources and this jacket feels really good to me right now, I'm gonna get it and see how it feels on me and use it as a way to explore myself. And is that not worthy work? Is that not productive? Is that not like an incredible devotion to allow people to see all the different ways that are possible to be. Because I think it's also possible, like we said, to get stuck in the archetypes, like the ways of being with a woman. It's easy to get stuck in a style because it starts to feel safe. And we stop exploring and trying and just seeing how things feel because we want to be comfortable, or we want people to have one set idea of who we are. And I think there's room for that, but you want to never shut off or shut the gate of your heart to experiencing more life out of fear. And so I really pray and hope that this just feels good to you as something that you can carry out into the many women, into the world with the many women that you service as a stylist. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you, Leah. I really appreciate just the time that you've taken with us and sharing your heart, and you're so young too. like if I would have known these things, if I would have known these things like when I first was married or like done any of this work, and it's just, but I mean, I'm doing it now and I can inspire other women to do it. And it's just, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here. I can't help it, but I'm just like, oh my goodness, just being here, it makes me feel inspired and hopeful for the world. So thank you. And I appreciate your compliments as well, just because I am young. And I think the one thing that I work with myself the most in is like being like, no, this information, this gnosis, like this wisdom really was delivered to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's not my mind or like, anything I like worked at. It's like, this is my gift to the world, period.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter, like, what am I trying to say? It doesn't matter like how it's coming packaged. It's like, this is a 25-year-old package, but this is like ancient, oldest time wisdom.
Yes,
And
it is.
so, I just put to the side all of that like analysis and just root it in love, root everything I'm doing in love. And so I appreciate you, and I appreciate you, Taylor, and everyone who's receiving this recording. And I pray that the series really blessed you. And I look forward to exploring all of these segments in greater depth in the future, if that feels good to me. And with that, I release you all out into the world to be beautiful, turned on, creational women.
Thank you. Bye, Leah. Bye, Taylor.
Hi, Taylor.
Hi.
Oh, let me stop recording.